it's time for Toker Talk Radio, the voice of the marijuana nation.
What are you people? On dope?
Where you can toke.
I inhale frequently.
Or you can talk.
I experimented with marijuana and didn't inhale.
Or you can toke and talk.
10 federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
While we talk about toke on Toker Talk Radio.
So, by the way, when it comes to pot, if you're 40 years old, you live in a log cabin in Oregon, you got 12 giant pot plants in your backyard, have a ball.
Live from beautiful Portland, Oregon at Rolla J Studios.
Hey, this is great. Just not cannabis.
Plus your calls live at 971-533-7111.
They're walking on their pants with their cap on backwards, listening to Enema Man and Snoopy Poop Dog.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel? Gateway theory doesn't work. It's a reality.
Holland, is it real? Don't tease me.
We're locking up people that take a couple of puffs of marijuana, and the next thing you know, they got 10 years.
And now, here's your host, the guru of ganja graphics, the sultan of sativa statistics, and the worst nightmare of a reefer mad prohibitionist. A polite, perspicacious, productive pothead with a propensity for PowerPoint. Radical Russ Belville.
All right. Welcome, everybody. It's Hour 2, Toker Talk Radio. I'm Radical Russ, hanging out with you here from Rolla J Studios in beautiful legal Portland, Oregon, where it is September. You can tell because it like clockwork, man. Gray skies, humid, misty kind of. Every night we're getting into that second half of the year where Portland, Oregon becomes gray with a continuing chance of wet for the next 6 months. So, but my schedule's pretty busy. I'll be out of town a lot of those weeks, especially come November. I will be going to Jamaica for the High Times Cannabis Cup. Yes, got the plane tickets, got the place to stay. Everything looks like it's a go for Jamaica. Really excited about that. And then later this month, heading out to Boston for the Boston Freedom Rally. So get to visit the East Coast, the Northeast, and then the Caribbean. And I've also got a trip to Atlanta coming and a trip to Roanoke, Virginia. So I'll hit just about all the East there, the Northeast, the Central East. I guess they call that the Mid-Atlantic. And then the South. That'll be a lot of fun. Some thoughts going through my brain today. One of them, I was answering this tweet during the last hour, talking to a person who was saying, because my post today was about how alcohol is a hard drug, right? And so he was saying, well, if all the marijuana groups would gang up and have a war against alcohol, they'd call a truce and maybe help us. But the good news is that that's a misconception. The alcohol industry has really not been too much against us in the past few years. Yes, in 2010 in California, the beer distributors and those guys kicked in against Prop 19. But in Colorado and Washington and Oregon and Alaska in these past couple of elections, they were kind of neutral, just on the sidelines, watching it happen. And this has been this has been considered by many of us in the reform movement as to what big alcohol would do as we started making gains in legalizing marijuana. And the fear was that if alcohol and marijuana were substitute goods, some people that might want to use alcohol would switch to marijuana and then they'd lose business. Well, the numbers coming out seem to show that's not the case. And this is something that's going to be interesting for us to deal with the prohibitionists, because this is one of the things, one of the straw men they like to hold up is this idea that we said that, marijuana is safer than alcohol. People should have a safer choice, but it's not really. They're going to say it's not really a choice if they're using both. And in fact, when you use both marijuana and alcohol, there is much greater, risk to the public as far as driving. But here's what I see in the numbers. They've shown over the past couple of years that the growth in the alcohol industry, the beer market there in Colorado, has grown about 2.93% a year before marijuana was legalized and now after it's been legalized. The beer industry in Colorado did not see much of an effect from marijuana legalization. didn't really change their market whatsoever. And we haven't heard much out of Washington in that same respect. And the reason I think this is true is because all of the presumptions about what would happen if marijuana were legalized were based on the idea that marijuana is not already widely used. As if legalization somehow made this new drug appear on the menu and people are going to give up alcohol for it. Well, folks who have been drinking up to this point have been drinking and continue to drink. People who have been smoking marijuana have been smoking marijuana up to this point, and the people who like both have been doing both. Legalization isn't going to change a whole lot amongst the heavy users of either marijuana or alcohol, in that both sets of those users have been heavy users, right? They have had access. They wouldn't have become heavy users if they weren't able to get it, right? So, like, my marijuana consumption hasn't really changed much since legalization, other than it's easier to get it. But I'm still consuming about the same amount. And I imagine beer drinkers are consuming the same amount, and people that smoke and drink are consuming the same amount. Where the change comes is in those people that don't have access, that are infrequent users of marijuana. Your over 50 types who are just retiring and their kids are just out of the, you've just flown the nest and gone to college, and they don't have a hookup. They don't have a guy. That's where the increase is from legalization, is amongst those demographics of lesser and new initiate type users, or returning initiate type users. We're going to tease some of this out of the National Survey of Drug Use and Health numbers. Those just came out today. I'll have tonight and tomorrow morning to look shit up and give you a nice analysis of this, I should say. Not always easy talking. It's the reason I make the big ones.
To keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel.
The Russ Belville Show reminds you to never smoke and drive impaired. Hang out for a while. Share.
.420 Radio is 24-hour marijuana legalization radio.
Hi, I'm Alex Rogers, producer of the 4th Oregon Medical Marijuana Business Conference, the OMMBC. There have been a lot of recent changes to Oregon cannabis laws. Recreational sales start October 1st, new licensing from the state, and changes to medical marijuana. Are you prepared? Join us at the downtown Portland Hilton September 12th and 13th with the industry's top cannabis experts, political leaders, exhibitors, and nightly networking events. For more information, join us online or give us a call. The OMMBC. Be part of history.
Marijuana may be legal in some states, but it is still very difficult to advertise. Legal marijuana states have strict guidelines about where marijuana ads may be placed. 420 Radio provides advertisers a marijuana-related on-demand platform skewed toward older adults that meets Colorado and other legal states' advertising restrictions. Visit 420radio.org/advertise to learn how you can place web ads that are immune to ad block software and audio ads heard live on 420 Radio and stored permanently in the enormously popular Russ Belville Show podcast. 420 Radio is heard by legions of dedicated fans who make up the activist leadership and entrepreneurial base of serious marijuana law reformers. Our audience is older, better educated, and more financially secure than most marijuana-related media can boast. Learn more at 420radio.org/advertise. Imagine life without taxes. Let New Era Certified Public Accountants, NewEraCPAs.com, handle your Cannabis 280E and tax strategy. Get your business prepared with New Era CPA's Cannabis Finance Bootcamp. NewEraCPAs.com, with years of experience in the industry, we are one of the nation's leading accounting firms for growers, dispensaries, and ancillary companies from Washington to California. NewEraCPAs.com. 2, 3.
Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now Now is the time. Now is the time. I have a dream. Every valley shall be exalted. I have a dream. Every hill and mountain will be made low. I have a dream today. My children will not be judged by the color of their skin.
That's Martin Luther King Jr. remixed and auto-tuned by the band from the future with I Have a Dream. At some of our Electric Tuesday music, we get into the experimental, the auto-tune, the dubstep, the house, electronic, all that good stuff. And you can check out a full hour from Electric Bob in Electric Bob's Boogaloo coming up tonight at 8 p.m. Pacific time, every Tuesday night at 8 p.m., as well as part of our 6-hour music block. You can catch Electric Bob's Boogaloo at 11 p.m. Pacific time on the weekends. All right, digging a bit into this national survey on drug use and health numbers. University of Michigan released the information today. And we're going to hear a whole bunch of bleating from Project Sam and Kevin Sabet and all these guys. Because the headline reads, daily marijuana use among U.S. college students highest since 1980. Yeah, it's been 35 years since college students have used pot as often as they're using it now. And the other headline that we're getting from the mainstream media coverage of this is more college students smoke marijuana daily than smoke cigarettes daily. First time that's ever happened. And in that headline, I think, is where we find a lot of wisdom for our drug policy. As they're covering this story, they're pointing out that 5.9% of college students report daily marijuana use, or they like to put it 1 out of 17 college kids is smoking pot daily. Then they also point out that 5% of college students report smoking cigarettes daily. That's 1 out of 20. And going along with this, correlating to the reports of both of these, the Monitoring the Future people write about how the perception of risk by high school students of using these drugs has changed. They point out how in 2006, it was like 55% thought that the regular use of marijuana was harmful. Now it's down to like 35%. Meanwhile, the perception of risk of using cigarettes has greatly increased among the young people. So why is that? Well, because we were honest with them. Because we had honest tobacco education going out to these kids from a very young age, starting with the 1998 tobacco lawsuits that went down at the federal level that mandated the funding of those truth ads, the truth.com, the Orange Truth, whatever it's called. But all these ads and all this information coming to young people about how deadly dangerous cigarettes are. And what do you know? Most of them, in an act of selfishness, decided not to smoke cigarettes. Hey, maybe I'd like to live longer. And similarly, as more realistic and accurate information about cannabis has come out, the young people have switched to it, have taken it up more than they have in the past. 5.9 reporting near daily marijuana use. Now, another note from the National Survey on Drug Use and Health is how drinking has gone down. The percentage of college students that said they have had an alcoholic beverage at least once in the past 30 days was 63%. That's just one drink in a month. 63% of college kids are saying that they've had one drink in a month or more. That's less than 2 out of 3. In fact, it was 2 out of 3. It was 67% in 2000. So it's gone down from even the year 2000, where 2 out of 3 college students said they drank. And going back to the 80s, 1981, the peak of that number was 82%, where 4 out of 5 college students were saying they drank. We've gone from 82% to 63% in that span of 34 years. And again, because college students are getting better, more accurate education as to the effects of drinking in their lives. And as the Project Sam people are going to come at us with this information, it's important for us to point out another drug that has gone down, and that is the use of synthetic marijuana. Now, synthetic marijuana, the spice, the K2, those things have become popular originally because it was thought, well, you can beat drug tests with it and it's legal and you can get a bodega and there's not a law against it, so you can't get busted, lose your scholarship, etc. But in 2011, when they first started measuring this stuff, 7.4% of college students indicated that they've tried synthetic marijuana in the past year. 7.2% tried it. In 2014, the rate is just 0.9%. 0.9% from 7.4 to 0.9%. Synthetic marijuana use is almost unheard of among college kids now, at the same time that the use of the real thing is more popular than ever. Interestingly enough, Monitoring the Future, or national survey here, doesn't make that correlation. Doesn't make the correlation that, hey, what do you know? As the kids are using more of the real thing, the synthetic thing went down. And they, of course, note that the one reason for the decline in synthetic drug use is that an increasing number of young people see it as dangerous. And they don't see using marijuana as dangerous. And Project Sam's going to come at us with this. Oh my God, see, we legalized, we increased access, more people are using. And don't let them get away with the frame that says an increase of use in and of itself per se is a bad thing. Because that's where they want that frame to be. They live in a world where the goal is to ensure that eventually nobody ever uses marijuana. An unrealistic goal, of course. But in their mind, in their purview, marijuana use should go down, and as a society, we should do things to try to coerce more people to not use marijuana. That's their mindset, that's their frame, and we cannot fight them in that frame. What we have to get it to is the same frame alcohol is in. Do you ever notice that aside from me mentioning this, that 63% of the college kids are drinking, or when the Monitoring the Future numbers come up and they say how many high school kids are drinking, but there's very little emphasis on how many are drinking, right? That it's going up or going down, or that it should go up or should go down. There's not a lot of that. But when it comes to alcohol, the framing is all around the harm. It's all around, well, have drunk driving deaths gone up? Has college binge drinking increased? Have there been more admittance to the emergency room for alcohol poisoning? Those are the kind of figures, more admittance to alcohol rehab. Those are the kind of figures that society and mainstream media will bring to you when we're talking about alcohol consumption. Nobody would ever say we need to get fewer people to drink alcohol in America. Fewer people should drink. In fact, nobody should drink. We should try to eliminate all drinking. That should be the stated goal, and we should shun and we should coerce people to try to stop drinking. No, we don't ever do that. Now, problem drinking, yes, we want to stop problem drinking. Notice that that's even a thing. That there's actually a thing called problem drinking. Just like, remember George W. Bush and compassionate conservatism? Like you had to put compassionate in front of conservative to change the brand, right? That somehow conservative by itself was a different thing. Same idea here with problem drinking. It says that we have to call this kind of drinking problem drinking because drinking in and of itself is not a problem. You got it? But we don't get that same frame with alcohol, with drugs. With drugs, there's just drug abuse. Right? Drug abuse. There's no drug use. There's no recreational, they don't see it that way. They're starting to see it with marijuana, but they just don't see it that way. So don't let them live in that frame where they say, oh my God, more college kids are using. Put them in the frame of harm reduction. Has there been more harm? Are more college kids dropping out? Are they getting lower grades? Are they wrecking their cars? Is there more emergency room admissions? These are the things that we can talk about and get out of the frame that says more marijuana use is just bad.
Oh, won't somebody please think of
Sometimes Liebermater just picks the perfect bumper, doesn't she? Hey, it's 420 here in beautiful legal Portland, Oregon. I've got the 21-inch Gandalf pipe, but no weed to put in it. That's right, I'm out of herb. Well, we'll have to do something about that. We're back with Electric Tuesday right after this.
420 Radio, the activist radio station. The Russ Belville Show is proudly sponsored by the Marijuana Business Association. The MJBA, called by NBC News the Cannabis Chamber of Commerce, is the fastest growing business association in the fastest growing industry in America. I've been working with the MJBA for years, and I personally invite you to join the MJBA. MJBA also publishes the popular MJ Headline News on Facebook and the MJNewsNetwork.com and Marijuana Channel 1 on YouTube. Visit mjba.net for more details. Oregon has joined Washington and Colorado in legalizing marijuana. We're Portland NORML, the national organization for the reform of marijuana laws chapter in Portland, Oregon. Join us as we celebrate the launch of an exciting new era in marijuana freedom in Oregon. Our job has just begun. Powerful interests want to white out the most important portions of Oregon's legalization law. By joining Portland NORML, you add your voice to the thousands who voted for Measure 91 and want it to be implemented as written. The people have spoken. Now it is time for the legislature to obey the will of the people. Find out more about Portland NORML at portlandnormal.org. Attend our monthly membership meetings on the fourth Saturday of the month. See our website for more details. Portland NORML, ensuring responsible adult marijuana consumers are afforded the same rights, privileges, and responsibilities as beer drinkers. Get.Buzz. .Buzz is the internet platform that fuels community interest, excitement, and new experiences. .Buzz is the premier online destination for internet users seeking the latest news on a variety of topics. .Buzz appeals to groups active in blogging, communications, journalism, advertising, and marketing. .Buzz offers registrants a stronger alternative to the shrinking namespace of existing top-level domain names, such as .com, .net, and .org. Get your name now at get.buzz.
Everyone knows music and marijuana go together, so let's wind up our 20 after break with the Russ Belville Show's Daily Toker Tunes, the best in pod-safe 420 music from around the web. Today is Electric Tuesday, featuring the latest in electronic dance music and other cutting-edge genres. Now, sit back and enjoy your Daily Toker Tune.
Well, Electric Bob is down in Arizona, probably trying to beat the heat. We don't have a call in from him for today, but we've got the tune. He's bringing us some music from Xivix, which is Xivix, also featuring Chump Change. The song is called Your Love, and enjoy this from our friend Electric Bob. And check out the Boogaloo tonight, 8 p.m. Pacific time, right here on 420radio.org.
The Fingerboard extension has fretted instruments to enhance your creativity. It has new and used guitars and banjos from beginning to high class. The Fingerboard extension has National Resophonic, Husson Dalton, Larrabee, Heritage and Recording King guitars, and Mike Ramsey, Wildwood, Gold Tone, and Recording King banjos. The Fingerboard extension also has drum stuff, used gear, and parts. Stop by the Fingerboard extension, downtown Corvallis, Oregon at 120 Northwest 2nd, or check out the inventory on the web at fingerboardextension.com and reverb.com. Get.Buzz. .Buzz is the internet platform that fuels community interest, excitement, and new experiences. .Buzz is the premier online destination for internet users seeking the latest news on a variety of topics. .Buzz appeals to groups active in blogging, communications, journalism, advertising, and marketing. .Buzz offers registrants a stronger alternative to the shrinking namespace of existing top-level domain names, such as .com, .net, and .org. Get your name now at get.buzz. They say marijuana grows like a weed, but growing high-quality marijuana takes more than just throwing a seed in the ground. Join us as we speak with the most recognized cannabis horticulturists in the world and take your live grow questions in our Cultivator's Corner.
I think we're talking about how to grow like a pro.
Well, let me ask you a question. Does everybody know this guy here? Anybody know who he is? All right. What question did you want to ask him that you were really embarrassed because you didn't want her to know? Come on, ask him.
Maybe I can answer it, I'm not sure, but if I can, I know who can.
Nothing, huh? Biggest bud you've ever grown?
Biggest bud, boy, that's kind of relative, you know, I mean, by weight or by size, gosh, let's see. Me personally, actually, there's a lot of other people that have grown a lot bigger buds than me, to be honest. One of the biggest buds that I've ever seen was in Northern California, just south of Humboldt, just south of Garberville in Humboldt County. And it was from Purple Star. And you can see that on my YouTube channel, the Jorge Cervantes YouTube channel. This thing is honking huge. The plant overall weighed in at about 10 and a half, maybe 11 pounds, just dried tops. And the thing is, I want to impress upon everybody here, is you can grow huge plants outdoors here as well. It's not that tough. You got to get them in early. That's the trick.
My wife always says size doesn't matter.
It does. It does. I'll tell you. If she ever saw a Purple Star, she'd never go back.
And big buds are old school now because the dispensaries, you know, they want the little buds, and it's going to become the norm. But I grew one as big as my arm.
Yeah, that's actually pretty common now. You know, before it used to not be that common, but geez, though, they're huge. You can grow huge plants, and but outdoors, I can't express enough.
All
about
three of
that.
us are sun-grown outdoor or greenhouse proponents, and the industry is gonna move from warehouses to greenhouses. They don't grow tomatoes in warehouses; they grow them in greenhouses, and that's where the industry is gonna go.
Yeah, it's much too expensive. Because see, the thing is, the price of cannabis it's been dropping for the last 5 years now, and it's going to continue to plummet. And for example, right now, we're right next to Oregon. Oregon has cheaper cannabis than Washington does, and overall, they're just going to take over if you don't get your prices lower, and that means you've got to produce at a lower cost.
Fortunately, there's Alaska where I live, so you can send your high-priced stuff up to us. We can't go over it well unless you people develop some short-season flowering. We need the auto flowering in Alaska. We have a whole completely different kind of environment. But I thought you were going to ask, what was the smelliest weed you ever grew? You ever grow that you could smell from the greenhouse outside?
I don't like skunk because 5 years ago I got sprayed by one, and I won't smoke it or grow it because I have bad deja vu memories.
Well, that the AFCU one I grew 2 years ago, Oh, it smelled so bad. In fact, I had a big problem. This year, I grow in the backyard in Northern California. I just grow a few plants, 10 pounds, nothing big. And what happened is the plants got so big. I've got an 8-foot fence. I've got to keep them below that, so that's a bit of a strain. I have to bend them over. But the smell was so bad that the entire neighborhood was complaining. And I mean, it was serious. So I really toned it down this last couple of years. And the trick I used was I put the carob compost. You know, you can get the carob plant or the carob trees. You get bark, carob bark, and then right when it's really still and everything, and the smell hangs in the backyard, you just water that carob mulch, and it smells like chocolate. So it masks the smell. It works pretty well.
And one of the things, I'm from California also, one of the things down there that they're using are zoning laws, nuisance laws, saying that the smell is a neighborhood nuisance. And so it just behooves us to grow good smelling cannabis. So that, you know, being a good neighbor and just...
Yeah, but there was a major court decision, I believe last week or the week before, that said cannabis fragrance is not offensive. You know, manure is offensive. A lot of people don't like the way that smells. But cannabis, the fragrance is not offensive. So we've got already a precedent set in our favor. We're winning, and we're going to continue to win.
Who's got a question? Yeah. Favorite strain? Well, mine is Durban Poison, without even thinking about it.
I gotta defer to Cheech Marin. The best one I have is the one that's right in front of me. That's my favorite every time.
At their Emerald Cup last year in California, Elemental Seeds out of San Jose had Mango Tango, which is a tangy and a mango cross that smells like peaches and mangoes, and it tastes really good. And so they won the Southern California Cannabis Cup in January, and it was impossible to find. And this dispensary in San Jose that's also owned by Elemental Seeds finally got it, and they called me, and I got in my car and drove 2 hours to San Jose to get it. And we'll see how it's doing in about 5 weeks.
Another question? You have one? Yeah. What's the best weed out here? Well, there again, I think same answer. You know, the one you're smoking.
The one right in front of you. That's the best.
Let me make a suggestion on that one. You know, when I go into the dispensaries, you know, I kind of like to look at the numbers, you know, and I like something at 20, 24. I hit one the other day that had it was called San Rafael. It was 12% THC. You know, normally you'd pass that by and I figured, well, what the heck? It's pretty cheap, so I bought some. Whoa, killer. You know, we've become, I think, a little bit into the numbers. You know, it's a fool's game. If it's lower number, you just take another hit. So, you know, I think we gotta sort of dispel that idea that you gotta get the strongest. That's not the way we should be taking this industry, I don't think. But, okay, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's really a good point. And also the way because see, I live in wine country in Northern California in Sonoma, the Sonoma Valley there, and the deal is most people there's very few super tasters. You know, maybe 5% and less than 5% are well, 1 to 2% are really true super tasters that can taste everything and that can really distinguish the fine differences in taste. And most people are like me, and they fall in the 80% category, or well, actually it's more like 60%, that don't have that great of a ability to taste.
George has bad taste. Sorry.
No, but it's true. It's true. When you look at the numbers, 100 people, it comes up consistently the same. So that really does figure in. Yeah.
Okay, so let's see what else. Yes. What biodynamic preps do you use?
Biodynamic, that's best for Jeff.
Well, I was going to say 409, but that's not. I'm not a biodynamic gardener, but I am an organic gardener, and there's no question that in this industry, organics rules. And in fact, if it's not organic, we ought to be treating it like GMO as far as I'm concerned. It gives us a bad name, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Biodynamics, I wrote this book, Teaching with Microbes, which is a soil food web-based book. Biodynamics is soil food web-based. There have been tremendous numbers of experiments done. It is incredibly effective. There's no question it works. You got to use the right formula depending on what he said you're supposed to use at the given time, I suspect. But if you're not biodynamic, you want to read this book. Simple as that. Just happen to have a couple of copies over there with George, so I can over there. Yeah.
Now, I agree 1,000% with organic growing. It's much, much easier outdoors. And in a greenhouse, you can really get a good soil life going. And you just save yourself tons of work. It's a little bit more work in the beginning, but all you have to do is, you test your soil, you find out what's in there. You don't go throwing the stuff, throwing all the things that somebody suggests. You can keep throwing things at your soil and you screw up the chemistry. Just be careful and measure.
Chemistry in the soil, there's 17 elements, right? So we're so used to the idea that you put kelp on. Kelp has 60 elements on the periodic table. Oh, so you put kelp on because it's got 60 elements. The plant only needs 17, period. The other stuff, it's just filler. Now that kind of makes people scratch their head a little bit. Kelp is great stuff, and those micronutrients are good, but they're good for the microbiology, and they help the plant. They don't necessarily help the plant per se. So you wanna, when you mention biodynamics, it's a very tight, very controlled, exactly what you need. That's what you put in and nothing else. And then you return what you're growing back into the soil. So, your extra leaves that you're not using for oil, your stems and everything else that you're not using, put it back in the soil, blah, 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 blah. But organics, if we're not organic, we're gonna get screwed. Because it'll be one more thing that these hypocritical politicians will be able to turn around to us and say, but it's dangerous. The same people who won't let us label GMO foods are pushing this idea that there are pesticides in that weed, that terrible stuff. So we got to catch them and we got to keep them honest.
Yeah, and we're all three garden writers. We love all plants. So we're going to go next month to the Garden Writers Association of America's annual meeting, and this is the first time we'll all be together and be able to talk openly about cannabis. It's going to be really cool. Well, here's one of the statistics from that industry. Home gardeners, in general, put 10 times more products on their plants and on their home gardens than agriculture does, okay? I believe that cannabis gardeners put about 100 times more on their gardens than they need to.
What do you use?
I use the chicken manure. That's my favorite.
I use urine, my own. And that's it. If you've got good soil, you don't need to put anything in it. Your plant gets what it needs. And you throw in all this other stuff, you ruin the system, then you have to start doing a lot of work. Next thing you know, you get a bug that's not supposed to be there, et cetera, et cetera.
But if you're growing in containers and reuse the soil every year, you do have to add stuff. And worm casting, compost, bat or bird guano, things like that added to reuse in 40, 50, 100-gallon containers. You have to add stuff the next year if you reuse the same thing. What some growers are doing is once the plant's harvested, they're throwing a bunch of earthworms into the medium, and the earthworms eat the old roots out, and then leave worm castings in the container.
I'm going to suggest that might not be a good idea.
What?
But it could be a good idea, but it might not be a bad idea because you've got mycorrhizal fungi in those roots. And people don't realize this. If you leave your roots in a pot and put a new plant in it, they're going to take advantage of all the spores and all of the, what we call propagules that are inside the old roots that are mycorrhizal. and they will infect, which is the right word, the new roots, and you'll get a plant that's able to take in all the nutrients, et cetera, et cetera. So you got to be a little careful with the worms. They'll take them in. Some of the spores will survive, but some of them won't. So if you do that, and it's a good idea to have earthworms, then add mycorrhizal. Your seed should be rolled in it. Your roots, when you're transplanting, should be put on it. Just add it back if you're taking it out.
It's no-till gardening.
Right. Exactly.
It's really easy. You know, I'm kind of a lazy guy, and it works really well for me. But one of the things I want to mention is when you have smaller pots, you really have to add the nutrient from the top and drain it through, because there's not enough time for the soil to develop a good, healthy life in there. So that's something, always pour it through the top. Make sure you get enough drainage out the bottom. Essential.
Okay, who had another question? There was a couple over there. No questions? Yeah. What's the worst weed?
Here's a funny story. Okay, years ago, one of my friends had these volunteer plants come up in his backyard. They were killer looking. They looked great. We harvested 3 pounds out of his backyard. It was no-high cannabis. We thought something was wrong with it. That was 35 years ago. Little did we know that that was high CBD cannabis. We just didn't know any better. Now, there's a lot more information available, and thanks to the internet. Gosh, the internet has really been wonderful for all of us to trade and share information. So, yeah, that would be the worst. The second worst, I've been in some horrid grow rooms, just infested with insects. That's probably the worst weed I've ever seen.
Down in California, we can have a week to 10 days of 105 to 110 degree temperatures. And especially in container growing, but even in soil growing, the root zone can get so hot it fries the roots, and the plants can't uptake nutrients and basically start to rot. So that is one thing that is really important in areas that get hot temperatures. And something that I saw at George's is shade cloth, because hot temperatures also affect transpiration and photosynthesis, and the plant likes 80 degrees temperatures, not 105. So keeping the plant in that optimum zone is really important.
Yeah, basically plant quits growing after 85 degrees. And the chemistry inside the leaf is about 95 degrees at that time. So whatever temperature is comfortable for you is comfortable for the plant. And the shade cloth, that's excellent, because it creates a breezeway right under the shade cloth and a natural wind tunnel right there, and it cools the plants down. And also the sunlight provides way more light than we need, so shade's a good deal. Go to any commercial nursery and you'll see they've got everything shaded. It cuts your water bill, it cuts your maintenance, and the plants always look good.
Yeah, and if you want to know what happens when it gets really hot inside your plant, this will tell you. 75 to 78 degrees is optimal. Everything hums at that. Anything different from that, you get different kinds of things with your enzymes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's pretty key, pretty key.
Yeah, but it's super important if you're growing outside to shade those pots, because these plants, they can fry. It takes as little as 30 minutes to an hour for the outside layer all the way around to cook. And if you use smooth pots, those roots tend to run around the outside, and you're killing the roots. And just like Alex said, the roots, once they die, they start to rot, and you just create a lot of problems there.
And one prevention measure that greenhouse growers, vegetable greenhouse growers use, that I've hardly ever seen any indoor or greenhouse cannabis growers use, is they have a pail or a bucket with a sponge that they insist people, it's a bleach solution, and they insist people step in the bleach solution before they go in the greenhouse or grow room, because that kills any pests that are on people's shoes, which can be a vector to bring into the greenhouse or grow room. So if you have any potential visitors or even yourself step on bleach solution. It's usually a 20% bleach solution. And that'll be a preventive measure to prevent spider mites and indoor pests.
Only has to happen once, so it's a good preventive. What a bummer. Yeah. Well, I use a neem-based product. I used to use Azamac, but right behind us in the Biofloral USA is a brand new product called one more time. Did you guys hear it? It's right over there behind, and you can get samples, and it's killer stuff. Azamax has been the go-to for a long, long time. General Hydroponics made it. They were bad enough, but they sold themselves to Scott's Miracle Grow. Stay away from everything General Hydroponics. I'm sorry. Simple as that. And if you want to know why I'm the only guy in America that can say that, you come to my talk at 4 o'clock.
No, I agree 100% with Jeff. Actually, and actually there's quite a few steps that you can go through to get rid of the mites. You prevent them ahead of time. I advise people to dip their clones in any kind of a miticide. Neem is excellent, but dip the entire plant before you move it in. Make sure your area is completely clean. You can put this tanglefoot around the edge of the pots. You can put it on the stems because they tend to walk away and they can travel that way. And watch for them and spray them quickly.
Once you've harvested the room, clean it all out and basically paint the room in bleach solution, because the smallest little crevice or anything they can hide in there and then come back on your next crop. Additionally, like George said, debris is one of the vectors for any type of pest, and I've been in grow rooms that have so much debris it's like a garbage dump. And just keeping a clean, sterile environment is the best preventive measure.
People are using UV lights as well.
Oh yeah, that was a UV.
2-second UV kills everything. Eggs. Everything.
Yeah, UVC. The UVC is most important. And then if you hang your buds on a line, you should smear the line at the ends with tanglefoot, because what happens is when the plant dies, there's no more juice to suck or sap to suck out of the plant. They climb up the top and go down to the end of the line, and that tanglefoot will stop them. So when you do that, it's really rewarding because there'll be a bunch of them at the end of the line if you have mites, and you just take your fingers and squish them all. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah, oh, absolutely. Good point, very good point. So we're getting super bugs. And we're all using the same product. So we're killing all the ones that don't like neem, but there's some that do like neem, maybe. And they're evolution, let's face it. So we have to be careful. We have to be careful what we do.
Yeah, that problem actually showed up.
He's up here, you used to sit down with us.
Yeah, the super mites actually showed up in the Netherlands about 20 years ago because they've been doing the same thing.
And that's why the UV, I think, is really
the UV. Yeah, there's no, you can't put, well, you can put too much UV on it, obviously, but that works every time.
Evolution of the UV.
None.
So one thing I heard on my Facebook, I have Since Me a Tips magazine Facebook page, and people put tips and stuff that they've heard, is on a hydroponic table, they put the legs in a coffee can of oil, and the mites can't climb up the legs into the plants on the table.
Yeah, then you're okay, as long as you don't have forced air heating or any kind of a fan system that's going to come in from a different room. It's inside the room, I think you're okay, but if it's coming in from another room,
yeah, that's really important to have a very fine mesh screen, or actually you can use nylon stocking, works really well. You stretch that over your intake, and you're not blowing things in from the outside. And also you want to, if you're growing in an outbuilding, or you want to rid the entire garden around the area for, gosh, as far as you can away, anywhere from 10 to 50 feet around the grow area, and that'll really lessen the amount of insects that come in.
And then earlier this morning, we were having a discussion over breakfast about trimming. And we talked about the different ways, whether you're wet trim or dry trim, and pretty much I try to cut the big fan leaves and leave the sugar leaves while the buds are wet, and then do finish trim after it dries.
Well, myself, I don't trim the plants much at all. I do what they call, what I call a Spanish trim. You just trim each bud. You go 1, 2, 3, 4 around there, and then I give most of what I grow away, so they can trim it later.
If I'm trimming on stone, I do a great job.
But actually, actually, technically, for preserving all the capitate stalked resin glands, it's best to trim immediately after you harvest, because the plants are more supple, and the more you knock those resin glands around, the more you bruise them, the sooner they're going to biodegrade. So that's why, or just fall off. Yeah. So that's the best time. Apparently, for bag appeal for the retail outlets, they want them to be trimmed afterwards. Alex here was saying, he says, well, you should trim them just like you said, you trim the big stuff, and then when it's wet, and then the dry or the small stuff when it's dry.
Good.
Curing the bud. Yeah, how long do you take to cure your bud?
Well, kind of till they're done. You know, I mean, the plant will tell you. That's really important. You just, put them, and it's hard to cure a large amount, because what you want to do with curing is you want to equalize all of the moisture within that bud. And the stem, the fewer stems you have on there, the easier it is to equalize the moisture, because, you've got a real thin little leaf out here. That's going to dry out way faster than a stem or a real dense resin-soaked, what do you call it, the flower, the seed bracts, where all the buds grow up. So what you do is basically seal it up in a jar, preferably glass or something that won't give off any taste to the buds, and open it up a couple of times daily. You can get them cured anywhere from 5 days to 14 days, depending upon humidity. And just let that be your example. But the buds will actually tell you.
One old trick that I learned 30 years ago was, if you have too dry of buds, you throw in a couple dried apples and seal it up, and the moisture from the dried apple goes into the bud and reconstitutes a little bit of moisture.
So reverse what you do with tobacco. You put an apple slice in it to make it more moist. That's a great idea.
Yeah, anything with moisture in it. Now, actually, lemon peel works really well. Anything that just has a touch of moisture in it. But when you put something extra in there like that, be careful. Just watch it a little closer. The trick is keep an eye on it.
Lemon peel I will use carefully only after I microwave it, because it has the eggs of those. You're not supposed to use them in compost. It's got what's the fly down in Florida? They have a problem with it. Citrus fly, I guess it is. Anyway, you got to be careful with lemon peel. Citrus peel.
Right.
So how many people? Let's ask them some questions. How many people here vaporize flowers? I'm curious. I go into dispensaries and I can't find vaporizers. What's going on here? You're the only one? Does anybody think about vaporizing and not combusting anymore? Oh, you're going to do it, yeah. People vaporize oils, but nobody's vaporizing flowers. What's the story on that? I don't get that. That's my big question.
How about infusing alcohol, not glycerol alcohol, but tequila, vodka, things like that? Does anybody do that?
Really?
A quick way to do it is you decarboxylate, you take an ounce of good bud, grind it up, put it on a cookie sheet, put in the oven at 240 degrees for 30 to 40 minutes. It'll smell the house up. But then you go to a brew shop and get the hop bag that they make hot or beer with. So you put the decarb ground up bud in the bag, get a 750 milliliter bottle. I like tequila, or my wife likes vodka. Put it in a wide mouth jar and put it in the freezer for 3 days, and it infuses into the alcohol. And it actually, when you get blueberry or some fruity type of bud, it actually has that flavor in the alcohol.
A good thing about when you vaporize, you only take about half of the cannabinoids out of the bud when you vaporize it, right? So there's this term, it's ABV, already been vaped. So say you put a gram in your vaporizer that's 15% THC. When you pull it out, you've got approximately 7%, 7+%. Then you can take that and use it in cooking or whatever else. So you feel like you get the absolute most out of it.
That was a half hour with three men who between them have 120 years of growing experience. That's the Three Amigos of cannabis cultivation, Jeff Lowenfels, Tom Alexander, and Jorge Cervantes. Wow, that was a jam-packed hour of information in hour 2, and if you missed any of it, stay tuned. In just 1 hour, 6 o'clock, the replays come on for hour 1 and hour 2. We've also been recording the hour 1 video feed now on Ustream, so if you visit the 420 Radio main page, you'll be able to click on the play button on the video window and re-watch me doing hour 1. All sorts of changes coming for 420 Radio. Make sure that you keep in touch by subscribing, or following, I should say, my Twitter account, Radical Russ, on Twitter. For everyone here at Rolla J Studios, I'm Radical Russ. Until next time, take care of each other, Tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth.